This show is strictly for educational purposes. The opinions expressed on the show are personal to the individuals appearing in the show and not those of Thinking Tree Ecoholics Private Limited. The show is not intended to offend or defame any individual, entity, caste, community, race, or religion, or to denigrate any institution, person, living or dead. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Hello and welcome to Ecoholics. This is another video in our Thinking Tree series, and today we have with us our guest, Mr. Hassan Razvi. Mr. Hassan Razvi is an economist in macroeconomic research. He is experienced with a demonstrated history of working in banking industry, and he is also a senior analyst in sovereign ratings at the Bank Group. Welcome to our channel, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the topic for today's discussion is Indian economy, aftermaths, and opportunities post COVID 19. So, sir, as you are a senior analyst in sovereign ratings, um, could you tell our audience what these sovereign ratings are?
Uh, to put it in very simple words, sovereign ratings is like a report card of an economy of any country based
Mm-hmm.
on how it performs on a host of parameters,
Mm-hmm.
macroeconomic parameters, socio-economic parameters, and a lot of softer parameters.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard about the ratings that are doled out by Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. So
Mm-hmm.
these are like sovereign ratings. What these organizations essentially do is that they analyze the economic and softer variables, and they come up with a score that is
Mm-hmm.
how well is the economy performing, and based on that the uh, economy is rated from, say, the highest rating is AAA, and
Mm-hmm.
the lowest, depending on the organization, at least is triple C minus.
Okay.
So, for example, India is somewhere at triple B minus among all the
Okay.
three rating agencies. So, which is
Okay.
the triple C minus is considered to be the borderline of the investment grade rating. Anything below triple B minus is below
Mm-hmm.
investment grade or junk rating, as what is known in the market, in the general economic sense.
Mm-hmm. And do you think these sovereign ratings for our country will further be affected after this, as an after effect of COVID 19?
To be very honest, we have looked at, we don't specifically look at one country, but we look at a host of countries. So I can't
Okay.
comment about India, but I can comment about a host of other economies where
Mm-hmm.
when we are analyzing, it is basically on the recovery that will happen in the T+1 period. It is
Mm-hmm.
not the shock that is that will be experienced at this juncture. It is how well can the economy rebound from this shock. So
Okay.
initially there were estimates that the global economy will contract. There is
Okay.
the International Monetary Fund came out with its estimates of the World Economic Outlook in mid-April,
Mm-hmm.
where it said that the world economy is expected to contract, say by 3%, for example. But
Mm-hmm.
the turnaround is something that is very important. So of course there is not one economy that has not suffered because of the COVID-19, especially
Definitely.
because of the slowdown in global trade, the private consumption. So and you don't have to be an economist to notice that.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it in your surroundings too. So
Mm-hmm.
surely, but the expectation is whether we will be able to rebound from the same or not, or whether it will push you further in, it will worsen your economic variables, or will it actually give you an opportunity to devise policies and embark
Mm-hmm.
on the path of further fiscal consolidation after this crisis is over. So,
Mm-hmm.
any economy, say Indian economy or any economy, it is very important to see what happens in T+1 period, rather than uh, it is a given that every economy will uh, incur expenditure, like there will be an expansionary fiscal policy, like we have seen around 20 trillion dollars, 20 trillion rupees that the Indian economy has announced as a stimulus, which does include the Reserve Bank of India's moratorium and other factors, but it is also that the additional amount that the government has announced will obviously add to the deficit, and in any normal period, had the deficit gone up by such an amount, it would
Mm-hmm.
have raised an alarm. But surely you can see in the best of economies that there is a deficit. So a deficit in an economy like India is not very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to see is how will the economy rebound from here, and that is when that rating agencies and individual economists will be able to take a call whether the rating gets downgraded or not.
Okay, so can you elaborate some more on what are the parameters that are taken into account while rating so and so country?
Uh, I can a general thing is that almost all rating agencies use a similar set of parameters. Like when
Okay.
you are in the market, you won't if someone uses X, you won't use A. So the set of parameters are different, but the weightage might differ from individual agency to agency. And even in our case, even since we are a bank and it is an internal consumption, the rating is for internal consumption. We have a
Mm-hmm.
different model, but the set of parameters that we are looking at is in general the GDP growth,
Hmm.
your fiscal
Okay.
balance, your
Hmm.
external balance, your debt levels, and then your softer parameters like what is the poverty, the level of poverty as measured by the Gini coefficient, and
Okay.
the other institutional factors. So these are some common parameters, and for the viewers, it will be beneficial that almost all the agencies have the rating methodology at least freely available on their websites. So if they want to learn more about it, and if they want to get a better understanding of the same, they can go and refer to the same. Of course, you need some economic understanding to understand the rating methodology, but I think the softer parameters will be easier for them to understand. But of course,
Hmm.
it comes with a weightage, and the parameters that I have highlighted are the common ones that are used throughout.
Okay. Okay. Now, sir, another very important concern is that of inequality gap. And I think there can be no denial to the fact that the economic cost of pandemic is not affordable to the lower income classes, which is also evident in the fact that the worst affected section in these tough times were the migrant laborers. Now, taking into account the past pandemics, the income inequality gap has always widened as an after effect. So, do you think it brings us back to the square one now?
It is very difficult because the amount of data available to substantiate this is uh, not uh, uh, not sufficient, I would say. Because
Okay.
if you see a pandemic at this scale is something that we are seeing for the first time. We saw the Great Depression, that was an economic fallout. We saw the Great Recession, which again was a financial market and economic fallout. But a pandemic that has slowed everything at this rate is something which is very new, and there is no data available to substantiate that. But if you want to consider the case in point of India, where you will
Mm-hmm.
see the the poverty ratio has been declining steadily. Like if
Hmm.
you see the decade of 90s, where the level of poverty according to the World Bank was around 40 odd percent, but that has fallen to around 20 odd percent. If you see the latest data, that latest data is also from 2011. So surely the level of poverty has come down, but the income inequality as measured by the Gini coefficient, of course, I would like to reiterate that Gini coefficient is not the perfect measure for the same, but is a widely used one. But
Mm-hmm.
because the data needed to calculate that is more accessible.
Okay.
So, as we have seen that even though the level of poverty has gone down, but the income inequality has only steadily increased from say around 30 that was in early 90s, and it
Mm-hmm.
stands at 37.8 as of now, the Gini coefficient. So that is the
Okay.
amount of inequality that is there in the economy that is persistent right now. and that is exactly the problem that has resulted in such a huge exodus of migrant laborers who are already uh, uh, have a very subsistence style of
Hmm.
wages where they earn and they spend, they earn and they spend. The savings is like the entire income is disposable. There is nothing left for them to save if they manage to save anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
So as we have seen, th- this is the time where the global economy will have to come together and think that the if we have to reduce the income inequality and redistribute the wealth, that is when a problem like this, if at all, if it is arising in the future, then
Hmm.
we can be very sure that the fallout is not as severe as what we are seeing right now.
Okay. Okay. So, what measures should the global economy take? Like,
Uh, Honestly speaking, there have been a number of measures already been uh, uh, recommended by some very great economists. You might have heard about Thomas Piketty, who in his book has said that let's tax the wealth of the rich so that the
hmm.
wealth can actually get redistributed. But
Hmm.
right now, the juncture at which we are, like in the case of India, it is what is more important is that the government needs to spend more on the on that section of the society. If
Hmm.
you look uh, at times to consolidate as a fiscal consolidation measure, many governments tend to curb the spending. So
Hmm.
because given the growth that is hit or given the economy that has not been in a very good shape for a very long time, the revenues have not gone up by a very great extent. So the
Hmm.
only avenue where they can control the deficit from going out of proportion or even bringing it down is to cut down on spending. So we
Which
have
is
seen a
wrong.
very
Okay.
which is wrong because it is not qualitative in nature.
Hmm.
If you
Okay.
want to reduce spending, or if you want to
Hmm.
reduce your fiscal deficit,
Hmm.
only bringing down spending is not an answer for poor economies,
Hmm.
because there's a very big chunk of population that depends on government spending. When you
Definitely.
have
Hmm.
a very big informal sector, when you have a very
Hmm.
big sector that is not captured in the regular or the mainstream economic variables, then
Hmm.
that is
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
you need the government to step in and actually either make them formalize them and help them get accounted into the system because when such a calamity arises, if you
Hmm.
have the data, if you have the number of people who are there in that bracket, the social security measures could be adopted, which
Hmm.
is impossible. Like even if the government wants to come and dole out say 20 trillion INR, still it won't be able to do the same because you don't have the data. There has always been a problem where money that has been sent by the center gets dis- uh, disappears in between somewhere. Like it will be a very political thing to say, and I want to refrain from saying that. But distribution has been a very a key issue for us for a very long time, and not only for us, for a lot of economies. So it is very important that we get that data in order. We see how can we reduce the pressure on the marginal.
Yeah. Yeah, sir. Hello.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah. Cool. Now, my next question to you, sir, is that recently the RBI predicted the GDP growth for financial year 2020 that it will be in the negative territory. And India seeing collapse of demand, dip in electricity, petroleum product consumption, fall in private consumption. Also, the private consumption has seen the biggest blow due to COVID-19. Investment has also been halted, and government revenues have been impacted severely due to the slowdown in the economy. Now, do you think it is still possible to achieve positive growth in 2021 through some interventions?
The only intervention that we are looking here is the public sector spending that the government could spend. Like we have seen in the past, the empirical data suggests that whenever there is a slowdown or a contraction in the economy, it is the government that comes ahead and supports the economy.
Hmm.
So surely the purse of the government will be very important. Like how well can they support the economy, and uh, whether they are actually concerned about the deficit target, which they will be. That any economy can't just let go of the deficit target, because then it will go out of hand. There is a fiscal consolidation path that every economy had decided for itself, and surely you need to adhere to that. But right now, the only, apart from divine intervention, the only intervention that is possible is the government spending that could happen here, because this is classical economics, where that whenever there is a slowdown in the economy, the fiscal policy gets expansionary.
Hmm.
You spend left, right, and center, and that is what is going to support the economy. And if we talk about the slowdown in GDP being attributed to private consumption, then private consumption has been hit for a very long time, even before the COVID-19. If you see
Exactly.
the growth that slowed down to below 5%, that was totally attributed to private consumption. And for so many years, when we are able to sustain at around an average of 7% growth, that is also attributable to private consumption.
Hmm.
So because investment expenditure was not always very reliable, we were still looking for investment expenditure to rebound when even private
Hmm.
consumption went into a negative terrain, or not
Hmm.
negative terrain, but it slowed down, and
Hmm.
that is what
Hmm.
has hit the economic growth.
Uh, to this, I have another question. Um, that many economists argue that investors, including Indians, who have more options now because of considerable amount capital account liberation, may find it more profitable to invest elsewhere in Asia. Now, it clearly means that just cutting down the corporate income tax was not lucrative enough. So, what else do you think needs to be done to increase this private investment apart from the government investment that you just pointed out?
It is very important to look at the consumer confidence. A good private sector consumption or private consumption expenditure would eventually boost the investment expenditure, because what we have seen from empirical evidence is that if you are a corporate, you won't mind paying 25% tax or 30% tax, as long as you are able to generate that kind of revenues.
Hmm.
The problem here is the private consumption that has been hit. So to support private consumption, we need expansionary fiscal as well as monetary policy, and monetary policy also needs to be transmitted down to the average consumer. For instance, it has been a very long time that the Reserve Bank has been on an easing spree. They have cut rates to a record low.
Hmm.
But if the same doesn't boil down to the average borrower, then it is not going to help the economy. Right now, what we need to do is we need people to spend. So that is something that is going to encourage people or investors in particular to come in and actually make that investment that is needed. That we saw in the past decade, where the investment was driven by the private sector consumption. You knew, if you are a producer of a pen, and there are so many people going to school in India, that if you come and sell a pen, no matter whatever is your brand, you'll be able to sell that pen. But suppose if people stop going to school because of this pandemic, and you come up with a pen, no matter how cheap and how good, you won't be able to sell the same. So consumer confidence and private sector, which will boost private sector consumption, is something that is very important for the economy at this juncture.
Okay. Now, sir, there is a saying that goes like every cloud has a silver lining. What do you think is the silver lining for India during and after COVID-19?
I think the silver lining here is we understand better now that it is important to get the marginalized sector back into the economy, to have
Hmm.
a more stable social security system, even though it is far-fetched, even though it will take time to materialize. But we do understand that it is very important to develop the social overhead capital. We need to have good government hospitals. We need to have better education, because that is what is needed. Because we see, if people are educated, they will be able to understand the importance of, say, social distancing. If
Hmm.
a person is not, cannot doesn't have the capacity to understand what this virus would do, if he doesn't have that kind of primary education, then he won't understand the importance of social distancing, for example. So right now, it has highlighted the fact that we need to do a lot of social overhead. Of course, the government in the past has said that it has $5 trillion worth of investments, infrastructure investment, that is planned, and for which it needs public-private partnership. But
Mhm.
it is also important now that the quality of the social infrastructure is improved. Where, like, if you see the World Bank data, if for 10,000 people there are 100 beds, now we need to at least improve that in the wake of this pandemic.
Hmm.
So I think that is the silver lining, where policymakers are seeing the impact on the ground, and this is probably a wake up call for a lot of people. India has been doing a lot in this regard, and I'm sure every government successively has focused on developing the social overhead capital. But the problem is that we are so populous, it can't happen overnight. It will take decades for this for us to reach a level that we could deem sufficient. But I think the silver lining here is, uh, the average person is also able to understand now the importance of areas that had not been appreciated to a very great extent. Say it, fiscal strength is a very important thing.
Mhm.
Today, had the government a sufficient amount of fiscal savings, then it could have supported the economy even in a much better fashion, in a not debt, non-debt inducing expenditure. Even now, the government will come out and spend left, right, and center, but that would surely generate some amount of debt. But
Hmm.
in the case of an economy where you have sufficient amount of fiscal savings, that can actually save the economy a lot of that debt, and that can also instill confidence in the masses, that okay, the government is there to support us because of the huge fiscal kitty that it has.
Mhm. Mhm. Sir, as you said that the country should develop or invest in the social overhead capital. So, do you think the investments that have been there since now were enough, or we need to invest some more in the social overhead capital
It
in the
it
coming
it
future?
it
Mm-hmm.
it, it surely is important for us to uh, invest. It is never enough. It was never enough for a triple A rated economy also. You can see,
Okay.
I don't want to point fingers, but if you see the death toll in US that is increasing on a daily basis. Surely people go to US to get treated for a lot of things, but right now even they are struggling at the scale at which this has happened. This was unprecedented. No one actually, uh,
Knew
either it
this.
was a joke, knew
Hmm.
this or predicted this. It
Hmm.
was said as a joke, maybe in some serial or something, or some movie, but we never thought that something like this that this would happen. And this has actually tested the capacity of the world.
Hmm.
So it is not only in the case of India. It is a thing that is throughout. Surely,
Hmm.
where the population is smaller, it is easier to do that. But where the population, where we are so populous in a country like India, it is comparatively more difficult. So whatever we have done so far is commendable, surely, but we cannot bask in that glory. We'll always have to do more. It is
Hmm.
like you cleared your SSC or your grade 10th, but then you cannot just be happy that okay, I have scored a 90 and now I'm set, because then you have more things to do. You have to go and do your undergraduate, then you have to go do your postgraduate, and then you have to go do your doctoral, and so on and so forth. and that is how you'll add value to yourself and in a broader sense to the economy.
Mhm.
So of course, what we have done is commendable. You cannot say that whatever has happened over the years is not sufficient and not good, because even for the best of economies, even they are struggling to get this under control.
Okay.
So
Now, if I were to talk about the health package, so for the workers, what according to you should be its components? Like, for example, universal basic income, or free food, or rehabilitation, or anything of that sort. What the components of the survival package would be?
I think food and electricity is very important. That is something for now as a survival package. Food and electricity would be great.
Okay.
Universal basic income is still being tested. If you see,
Hmm.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is actually testing it
Hmm.
in some African countries. The
Hmm.
results are positive, but we yet have to see the thesis come and yield actual results. What so far what has been seen is that if you provide a minimum basic income, universal basic income, that is a minimum of what can be used to sustain for that group of population,
Hmm.
then that they will not just consume it and sleep over it.
Hmm.
They would be encouraged to take better risk, use that, put that money to use and improve their own livelihoods. But as it is said, it is not a proven hypothesis so far. It is something that is in the works. So we'll have to be very patient and see if that is actually a solution. We cannot just jump at every possible solution that is there without analyzing it, because we there's a cost.
Hmm.
uh, Maybe for a developed economy the cost is lower because they have that kind of fiscal savings, and the
Hmm.
strength of the economy is there, where the higher or the where the weaker section of the society is not that large,
Hmm.
where the income inequality is not that large, so the shock absorption capacity is higher. Here you will see, even if you say okay 20% of the population is below poverty line, suppose, and you want
Hmm.
to set aside a sum for that 20% of the population. But 20% population for a 135 crore population
It's a huge number. Hmm.
is a very huge number.
Hmm.
And you will be like setting aside 30 crore for 30 crore individuals. You will setting aside that kind of money, which
Hmm.
is something that you will have to take a step back. It is not something that can't be done, but we'll need to see how well it can be executed. But for now, I think food and electricity is something that will keep the cycle going as of now.
Hmm.
So for how long we don't know, but surely for some time, and if not totally subsidized, but actually if there is a moratorium of some kind, that will surely be helpful.
Hmm. Okay. Now that was a very good, very wonderful discussion, sir. Now in the end, I'll just want you to speak a few words of encouragement or any suggestions, if you have for ecoholics.
Actually, I am very humbled to be called on this forum. What Ecoholics is doing is actually a very good initiative, where they are getting academics the kind of exposure that how does the market economics works, and how do people actually think, from getting help from professionals. I think uh, I would have been a better economist had something like Ecoholics been when I was doing my post graduation 10 years back. I would have had a better exposure there. So a big thumbs up to Ecoholics and for everything that it is doing. I got an opportunity to see that a lot of people who are associated with the academics are actually referred to Ecoholics a lot, and it is something that is very encouraging, and it is a very good initiative. I think when I was graduating from college, I didn't know the kind of exposure that economics would get me. But I
Hmm.
think the kind of support that is there as of now is commendable. I think Ecoholics is doing a very good job, and I think you guys should keep it up. And of course, it should be you should one up from here. You cannot bask in the glory like we have said, You
Yeah.
have to achieve greater heights. So
That's an
I think
important point. Yeah.
yes, and I think the team is doing a very good job. So keep it up, guys. And uh, I would advise everyone to go and check out their YouTube channel. I think before coming for this interview, I went and checked it out, and there's a lot of helpful material over there. You can that can simplify a lot of things. I think I have used a lot of jargon that might have been like very high up in some people who are like just being introduced to economics. For simplifying it further, we need institutions like Ecoholic to help those who are actually passionate, and even to make to ignite the passion in others for economics.
Hmm.
So well done and keep it up. Good work, Sanat and Sonal. So that these are the only two people I know from the team. I believe
Okay.
the team. So
Yeah,
great work,
it
great
is.
work.
It is. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was a very wonderful session. And thank you for enlightening our students, sir. We look forward to hosting more interviews like this with you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot.